You're listening to Trace Hunt Radio. We explore the darkest chapters of true crime, unsolved mysteries, cold cases, and the twisted minds behind them. Follow the blood, chase the clues, uncover the truth. Stay sharp. The hunt begins now.
She wasn't the victim, she was the mastermind.
It was late, a quiet German street. A black Mercedes sat parked beneath the flickering streetlight. Inside, the lifeless body of a young woman, brutally stabbed, her face almost unrecognizable. Her parents arrived first. They screamed her name. They knew it was her car, her clothes, her makeup, her face. But they were wrong. Because the next morning, they received a phone call that would shatter their reality again. Your daughter is alive. Who was the girl in the car? This is the story of Shahaban, a rebellious young woman obsessed with beauty, freedom, and escape. And Kadija, a bright, kind soul who only wanted to become a beauty influencer. One of them had dreams. The other had a plan. A plan so evil, so twisted, so cinematic. It involved murder, deception, and identity theft. You won't believe how far someone will go to vanish from their life, and when you hear the truth, you'll wish it wasn't real. In a quiet suburb of Ingolstadt, Germany, a family of Iraqi refugees tried to start over. They had fled war, persecution, and chaos, and finally found refuge in a place where the streets were clean and the systems made sense. But what they couldn't escape, what no border could protect them from, was what lived inside their home. Her name was Shahaban. To those who knew her in passing, she was a typical Zoomer girl, heavy into social media, obsessed with beauty, always holding her phone as if it were part of her hand. But those closest to her knew that Shahaban was anything but ordinary. She was a storm wrapped in skin, and the winds inside her had been building for years. Born in 1999 in Iraq, Shahaban came into the world in the middle of trauma. Her family practiced Yazidism, a minority religion that mixed elements of Islam, Christianity, and ancient Mesopotamian beliefs. The Yazidis had been persecuted for generations. Her parents bore that weight silently, devout, cautious, and deeply traditional. But Shahaban? She wanted more. She wanted freedom. She wanted to be seen. As a child, she was quiet, observant, but puberty changed her. Like a butterfly with rage in its wings, she emerged transformed. By her early teens, she was sneaking out of the house, experimenting with makeup, and crafting an online persona that was bold, flirtatious, and untouchable. Her Instagram lit up with selfies, contouring done to perfection, eyes lined sharp as razors. She wasn't just experimenting with beauty, she was weaponizing it. Every like, every comment was fuel. But at home, things were collapsing. Her parents, loving but strict, had no idea how to handle the girl she was becoming. She refused to wear modest clothing. She refused to answer calls. She would leave the house without telling anyone where she was going and come home at 3 a.m., if at all. Her father was furious. Her mother wept. But nothing they did could reach her, and perhaps she liked that. Perhaps to Shahaban, control felt like a cage. And rebellion, even when it hurt, felt like breath. She started skipping school. Her grades plummeted. She picked fights, even in public. One time, after being caught smoking outside a school building, she told the principal he was lucky she didn't film him for TikTok. Another time, she faked a suicide attempt just to scare a boy who broke up with her. But what most people didn't know, what made Shahaban's story even more tragic, was that behind the bravado, she was deeply insecure. She didn't hate her parents. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but she couldn't stand being unseen. She needed attention like oxygen, and in a world dominated by social media, she knew exactly how to get it. She began following beauty influencers, memorizing their routines, copying their angles. Her dream was to become a famous makeup artist, maybe start a YouTube channel, then her own line of beauty products. She even wrote "Beauty Boss" in cursive across her mirror, surrounded by sticky notes filled with goals. But her ambition came with shadows. Online, she presented herself as confident and cool. But offline, she was volatile, paranoid, jealous. She accused friends of betrayal, fought violently with classmates, and once deleted all her followers because someone called her fake in the comments. Even in love, she was destructive. She didn't just want a boyfriend, she wanted someone to orbit her, to need her, to be broken by her if they ever left. And soon she'd find someone who did. But before that, before the romance, the marriage, the violence, and the murder, there was a moment in time where Shahaban could have turned around. She could have sought help, therapy, a mentor, a second chance. But she didn't. Because somewhere along the way, pain became her language. And attention, even negative, became her currency. Her parents tried everything. They grounded her, took away her phone, sent her to live with a relative in a stricter household. Nothing worked. The more they pushed, the more she pulled. By 16, Shahaban had stopped listening entirely. Her parents were now oppressors. Their values were backward. Their concern was control. And as her personal life spiraled, her online one blossomed. She began taking bolder photos, tagging beauty brands, using hashtags like #selfmadequeen and #glowupdiaries. She got DMs from strangers, men mostly, offering her gifts, money, even trips. To a girl starved for validation, it was intoxicating. She told her friends she'd be famous before 25. But fame without foundation is a dangerous dream. And in Shahaban's case, it would become a fatal one, not for her, but for someone who looked like her, someone whose only mistake was trusting the wrong person. In many ways, Shahaban was a girl already running from herself. But in the fall of 2015, she met someone who made her stop, if only for a moment. His name was Rowan. Like her, he came from Iraq. Like her, he had grown up navigating the tension between traditional family values and a modern Western society. They were the same age, 16, but while Shahaban was fire, Rowan was earth, grounded, patient, soft-spoken. Their first meeting was pure coincidence. A shared glance across a crowded local park, a smirk, a spark. Then came the messages, late-night chats, inside jokes, compliments whispered through phone calls under the covers. He listened when she ranted. He validated her pain. He told her she was beautiful, not just in makeup, but even in the silence. For the first time in years, Shahaban felt safe. But safety, to someone used to chaos, can feel like suffocation. They kept their relationship secret at first. Their families, especially hers, would never approve. In Yazidi tradition, dating outside religious parameters wasn't just taboo. It could bring shame, dishonor, even exile. Still, they were careful. Until one evening, Shahaban's uncle saw them, kissing, in public. The fallout was immediate. Rowan was yelled at, threatened, cursed in front of strangers. Her uncle grabbed his phone, rifled through photos, selfies, hugs, private text. He now had evidence. And in a deeply patriarchal family system, evidence meant control. He didn't tell the family immediately. Instead, he made Shahaban a deal. Do what I say or I show your father everything. And just like that, love became leverage. He used her like a pawn, demanding favors, obedience, silence. Small things at first, but the psychological grip grew tighter each time she complied. Shahaban didn't tell Rowan at first, but the tension seeped into their relationship like poison. She became agitated, distant. He felt her slipping away and didn't know why. When she finally confessed, Rowan was furious, not at her, but at the manipulation, the betrayal by someone meant to protect her. But what could a teenage boy do? In a culture of family-first obedience, speaking up could make things worse. So they endured for a year, until one day Shahaban snapped. She told everyone the truth about Rowan, about the relationship, about the threats. She expected a bomb to drop. But instead, something stranger happened. Relief. The secret was out. And in its place, a dangerous sort of freedom. Their families were outraged. Accusations flew. Her father shouted, his mother cried. Both sets of parents demanded they break up immediately, but the teens were defiant. Their trauma had fused them together, and rebellion for Shahaban had always been her favorite weapon. By the time they turned 18, they were married. No wedding dress, no family blessings, just a courthouse signature and the illusion of liberty. They moved into a small flat above a barber shop Rowan rented with his savings. He worked long hours. Shahaban enrolled in a beauty school and later got a job in a laser clinic. On paper, they were the perfect immigrant success story. But behind closed doors, the cracks widened. At first, it was small things. Shahaban snapping over chores. Jealousy when a female client smiled at Rowan. Storming out in the middle of dinner. Ghosting for hours with no explanation. Then came the fights. Loud. Violent. One day she threw a hairbrush at his head. Another time, she smashed a mirror and accused him of trapping her in a prison. The bakery next door remembered the day she barged in, bought 3 cakes, then stormed into Rowan's barbershop and pelted him with pastries, screaming that he'd been flirting with that blonde customer again. It would be laughable if it weren't terrifying. Rowan didn't know how to respond. He loved her, but he was afraid of her. She could be sweet in the morning and monstrous by night. Once she accused him of cheating with no evidence. When he denied it, she cried, slapped him, then locked herself in the bathroom and didn't come out for 6 hours. He begged her to see a therapist. She called him weak. "You knew who I was when you married me," she said. And maybe that was true. But even he couldn't predict how far she would spiral. Then came the pandemic. Suddenly, the couple, already strained, was locked in the same 600-square-foot apartment, 24 hours a day with no escape. Surprisingly, for a while, things improved. Without external triggers, other men, jealousies, strangers, Shahaban calmed down. She started cooking. Watching TV, she even took care of Rowan when he got a fever. They laughed again. But it didn't last. As soon as lockdown ended, Shahaban bought her first car, a sleek black Mercedes. It wasn't just transportation. It was her symbol of independence. Within days, she was disappearing again. Driving off at midnight, posting selfies from parking lots, blasting music and live streaming dance sessions from the driver's seat. She didn't care how it made Rowan feel. And then she cheated. Not once. Not twice. Multiple times. At first, it was discreet, a smile too long, a lipstick smudge on her neck. Then she got pregnant, the final bomb. Rowan found out, screamed, cried, demanded answers, but she gave none. She just laughed. "You think you can control me? I don't even control myself." They fought. She hit him, slammed his face into a mirror, threw a phone at his head. And then, in one terrifying moment, she tried to run him over with the Mercedes. He called the police, filed a restraining order, filed for divorce. She moved back in with her parents. It should have ended there. But Shahaban never accepted endings. To her, divorce wasn't just failure, it was humiliation. And she was willing to do anything to avoid it. Even disappear. You would think that divorce would be the final act. That after a restraining order, a shattered mirror, and a pregnancy scandal, both parties would walk away, bruised but breathing. But Shahaban was not like most people. When she moved back in with her parents, it wasn't to recover. It was to regroup. She didn't mourn the end of her marriage. She reimagined herself, reinvented, repositioned. She was no longer just a wife or a girl in love. She was a victim, a survivor, a woman scorned. At least that's how she told it. In her version of the story, Rowan had destroyed her life. He had been abusive, controlling, manipulative. She posted cryptic captions online. "Some scars you can't see. When love becomes a cage, break the door. I'll rise again." They can't silence me. But behind the filtered selfies and hashtagged wisdom was a much darker truth. Because Shahaban wasn't just playing the victim, she was planning her revenge. And it wasn't just about Rowan anymore. It was about everyone she felt had wronged her. His family, the relatives who had interfered, the culture that tried to cage her. The world would pay, she thought, one way or another. And so began her descent, one that would take her far beyond impulsive violence or petty vengeance. She started small. Petty theft, fraud, forging COVID-19 test certificates and selling them online. She got caught shoplifting once, small groceries, snacks, and laughed at the officer like it was a joke. But the most disturbing turn came when authorities discovered explicit images of minors on her phone during an unrelated investigation. The charges would later be dismissed due to procedural issues, but the stain remained. Still, she wasn't fazed, not visibly. To those around her, she played the part of a misunderstood woman, a product of a broken culture, a poor soul lashing out after heartbreak. She even started telling people that Rowan was stalking her, a claim she repeated in tearful voice notes sent to friends. In truth, Rowan had cut off all contact, but Shahaban crafted the story so carefully that some believed her. Others didn't, but by then she didn't care about truth, only about power. Then the delusions deepened. She began associating with low-level criminals, drug dealers, thieves. One of them was Shokhair, a 23-year-old with a quiet face and a violent temper, especially when on drugs. He had a history of arrests for assault and a reputation for being manipulable when under the influence. Shokhair wasn't like Rowan. He didn't challenge her. He didn't ask questions. He let her talk and he obeyed. That's what Shahaban wanted now, not love, but loyalty. They spent nights getting high, talking about death, power, magic. One friend said Shahaban believed in love spells and had books and handwritten incantations in her bag. When police later searched her room, they found notebooks filled with bizarre symbols, names of people she hated, and chilling statements like, "If they don't fear me, they will mourn me." Shokhair became her tool, and she began shaping the most disturbing plan she'd ever conceived. She wanted to vanish. Completely. No more marriage, no more trauma, no more past. But vanishing wasn't enough. She wanted Rowan to pay. She wanted his name tied to a tragedy so massive, so shameful, that even if she disappeared, he'd be imprisoned forever. So she made a decision. She would fake her own death and pin the murder on her ex-husband. But a fake death done right needs more than a plan. It needs a body. And that's when the plan stopped being twisted and became evil. Shahaban began scouring social media. She created dozens of fake accounts, posing as casting directors, modeling scouts, spa owners. She searched for women who looked like her, dark-haired, olive skin, similar height, similar frame. At first, it seemed impossible. Too many girls saw through the scam. Some ghosted her when she asked them to come to Munich for a spa consultation. Others sensed something was wrong. One girl reported her fake spa account to Instagram, which was shut down. Still, she didn't give up. She made lists, criteria, rules. Must be between 160 to 170 centimeters. Age 2223. Must post beauty content. Must crave attention. Must not be well connected. Her goal wasn't just to find a body. She needed a lookalike. And she found one. Her name was Kadija. Kadija was everything Shahaban wasn't. Sweet, optimistic, innocent. Born in Algeria, raised in Germany. Her parents had divorced when she was young and she'd been raised mostly by her father. She was a waitress with big dreams. She wanted to become a makeup influencer and had just started posting tutorials to TikTok. She was vibrant, full of laughter, always encouraging her friends. And her demons, she'd tell other girls, "We're all beautiful. Just find your angle. Don't let anyone dull your sparkle." And that sparkle is what drew Shahaban. She contacted Kadija pretending to be a producer for a German rapper named Lon. She claimed Kadija had been shortlisted to appear in a music video. Kadija was stunned, thrilled. She messaged Lon directly to confirm, and by some twisted stroke of luck, Lon actually replied, saying there was no video. Thus she must be getting scammed. That moment right there could have saved her life. But then Shahaban changed the story. She said the audition wasn't for music, it was for a new salon brand. Kadija had already caught the bug. She wanted to believe it. So she said yes. Shahaban offered to pick her up personally, claiming she didn't want Kadija to waste train money. The salon was just outside Munich, she said. The car was black, clean, expensive looking. Kadija felt safe. She texted a friend. "This could be my big break, wish me luck." It would be the last message she ever sent. Shahaban wasn't stupid. For all her impulsive behavior, all her emotional outbursts, all her chaos, this plan was calculated, cold, deliberate, methodical. She wanted to disappear, yes, but not just vanish. She wanted to vanish brilliantly. The way an actress leaves a stage mid-monologue, all eyes on her, jaws open, silence deafening. She wanted the world to believe she had been murdered. She wanted her ex-husband to take the fall. And she wanted to watch it all unfold from the shadows. It sounds like the plot of a Netflix series. A woman so desperate to erase her past, she orchestrates her own death, using another woman's body. But this wasn't fiction. It was August 2022, and the trap was nearly set. Step 1. The double, her name was Kadija. A 23-year-old Algerian-German woman with a gentle spirit, a radiant smile, and a fierce passion for beauty and self-expression. She wasn't famous, not yet, but she dreamed big. She lived with friends in Baden-Württemberg, 160 kilometers from Munich. She worked shifts at a cafe, created beauty tutorials on TikTok, and followed every big name in makeup, hoping one day she'd be one of them. And when she got the message, a casting offer, a chance to be the face of a new luxury salon, she was ecstatic. The message came from someone claiming to be a salon owner and beauty influencer, someone who could make her a star. What Kadija didn't know was that this was Shahaban, operating under one of many fake accounts. Shahaban had researched her targets well. Kadija matched the physical description perfectly. Same age, same build, similar facial features. And, crucially, she wasn't heavily followed. She didn't have the kind of online presence that would create a viral manhunt if she went missing. She was visible enough to lure, but invisible enough to lose. Step 2. The lure on the surface, the plan was simple. Invite Kadija for a modeling consultation in Munich. Offer to pick her up to make it easy. Say all the right things. Sound legitimate. Be friendly. Make her feel safe. On August 16th, 2022, Shahaban did just that. She left her parents' home early in the morning, putting on a performance so convincing even her family believed it. She told them she was going to meet Rowan, her ex-husband, for a final conversation, to sign papers, to settle things peacefully. They had no reason to doubt her. That morning, she even hugged her mother goodbye, a rare, tender moment. Her mother would later say it was the warmest she'd been in months. Then she drove off in her black Mercedes to kill someone who looked just like her. Step 3. The murder. Shakir, the man she had recruited to help her, was already waiting. He had agreed to the terms. 5,000 euros up front, euro 5,000 after the job was done. She promised him drugs, money, and freedom. But she also gave him something darker. A reason. She told him Kadija was a threat, that she was working with Rowan, that she had ruined her life, that she needed to disappear. It was a lie. Of course it was, but Shakir didn't care. Whether out of loyalty, love, or addiction, he agreed. When Kadija got into the car that day, she was smiling. She messaged a friend a selfie in the back seat with the caption, "On my way, feeling cute today." She never knew it would be her last. As they drove, Shahaban pretended to be lost. She pulled over near a wooded area just outside Ingolstadt and stepped out of the car to check for a street sign. Kadija followed her out, confused, maybe concerned. That's when Shakir struck. He hit her in the back of the head with brass knuckles. She collapsed, dazed, helpless. Then he stabbed her. Again and again and again. Over 50 times. Her face, her chest, her back, her neck. They weren't just trying to kill her. They were trying to destroy her identity. To erase her. They dragged her body to the back seat of the Mercedes, sat her upright, stained in blood, broken, unrecognizable. Then they drove her to a private road just outside Rowan's neighborhood, the final act in their plan. They parked the car, left the body, locked the doors, and walked away. Step 4. The setup, the next few hours were crucial. Shahaban returned to her parents' house before midnight. Calm, clean, smiling. She told them the meeting with Rowan had gone better than expected, that she was going to lie down for a bit. Meanwhile, Khadija's body sat in the car, dead for hours. It was Shahaban's parents who eventually became worried. Kadija, believed to be their daughter, wasn't answering calls. She hadn't returned, so they drove to Rowan Street and saw the Mercedes. What they found inside shattered their world. Their daughter, slumped in the back seat, covered in blood, her face unrecognizable, her body lifeless. Her car, her makeup, her jewelry, but something felt off. Still, they believed what their eyes told them. Their daughter was dead. They screamed, collapsed, called the police. The investigation began immediately. Step 5, the identity swap. And this is where it becomes both genius and grotesque. You see, German law protects personal identity, especially in high-profile crimes. The victim's face was too damaged to be confirmed visually. The car was Shahaban's. The clothes were hers. The makeup bag. The social media. So the assumption, the dead girl was Shahaban? The media reported it that way. 23-year-old woman murdered in her own car outside her ex-husband's home. And Rowan? He panicked. He hadn't spoken to Shahaban in weeks. He had no idea she was still manipulating people. But when he heard the news, he ran. He knew the spotlight would fall on him. The angry ex. The one she had accused. The one she had slapped and screamed at. To the world, it looked like motive. He fled. Not because he was guilty, but because he was scared of being framed. Exactly what Shahaban had hoped for. But her plan had one flaw. She couldn't stay away. Before there was a body in a car, before there were police, headlines, and a grieving family standing over the wrong corpse, there was a hunt, not for a victim, but for a mirror. A digital obsession. Shahaban's plan required something more disturbing than a murder. It required precision casting, like a twisted talent scout, scouring the internet not for fame, but for a face that matched hers. Not similar, not close, identical. And in the vast ocean of selfies, filters, and beauty accounts, she began to search, quietly, patiently, day after day, hour after hour, like a digital predator circling Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. She wasn't just looking at faces, she looked at height, skin tone, eye shape, jawline structure, hair length, style of dress, even their smile. She took screenshots, made comparison grids, studied angles, cropped heads onto her own body to see if they could pass. She sent images to Shakir late at night, asking, "Close enough? Would they believe it's me?" She had a checklist. Her double had to be 22 to 23 years old, between 160 to 170 centimeters tall, have dark eyes and olive-toned skin, use makeup regularly, be active on social media, live far enough away that no one would instantly recognize her. But there was one more critical requirement. She had to be trusting. The auditions began. With her criteria locked in, Shahaban began recruitment, or what she called it, casting. She created several fake Instagram accounts, each more believable than the last. One posed as a luxury spa owner, another as a modeling scout for a Berlin cosmetics agency. One claimed to be a personal assistant to a popular German rapper. Each profile was curated to appear real. Stolen photos from real salons, inspirational quotes, fake client reviews, a following of bots to simulate popularity. She used these accounts to message girls across Germany. "Hi babe, you're absolutely stunning. Are you interested in modeling opportunities? We're casting girls for a skincare campaign. I think you'd be perfect. I run a salon and we're offering free treatments to influencers in exchange for photos. DM me if you're interested." Most girls ignored her. Some responded briefly, curious, flattered, but vanished when things got sketchy. One even messaged back, "Why are your page photos from Pinterest LO?" Still, a few agreed to meet. One girl even packed her bag before canceling last minute when the address didn't show up on Google Maps. Shahaban was furious. Time was running out. The fake death plan was set. The Mercedes was ready. Shocker was growing impatient. And the media pressure on Rowan would only work if the body was found soon. And then, like fate, she found her? The perfect match. Kadija B, 23 years old. Algerian German, small frame, striking eyes, full lips. And most importantly, she looked just like Shahaban. But more than that, she had something else. Hope. Kadija wasn't just beautiful. She was dreaming. She was a waitress by day, but an aspiring beauty influencer by night. She had recently started uploading makeup tutorials on TikTok, mimicking famous artists, tagging beauty brands, trying to go viral. She didn't have much, a shared apartment, low income, no family nearby, but she had ambition. Shahaban knew instantly this was her girl. She messaged Kadija using a new fake account, claimed she worked with a music producer, Lon, and that Kadija had been scouted for an upcoming video shoot and promotional campaign. Kadija was shocked, flattered, excited. She checked the profile, it looked real. The messages were kind, professional, supportive. She told her roommate, maybe this is it. Maybe this is how it starts. She even messaged Lon's actual account to confirm. To her surprise, Lon replied, denying any video shoot. Kadija grew suspicious, but Shahaban adapted, pivoted quickly. "Oh no, babe, not that Lon. This is a different branch. He's just licensing the music. This is a separate shoot." Kadija hesitated, but she wanted it. She needed it. Final preparations. When Shahaban offered to pick her up personally, Kadija felt relieved. She didn't own a car. Train tickets were expensive. The thought of being chauffeured by a professional made her feel valued. And Shahaban played the part perfectly. Polite, warm, reassuring. She told Kadija to bring her favorite makeup kit for behind-the-scenes content, said they'd go to lunch after the shoot. Even joked, "Hope you're ready to be famous." Kadija texted her sister that morning, "I'm nervous, but I think it'll be amazing. Pray for me." Her sister sent back a heart emoji. Kadija packed her best outfit, her phone, her powder compact, her dreams. She locked the door behind her, and she never came back. Behind the curtain, as the day approached, Shahaban grew manic. She wrote to Shakir late at night, "We have to be fast. She looks exactly like me. Once it's done, everything changes." She printed out documents, cleared her browser history, hid photos, deleted messages. She even left small clues in her room, as if preparing for mourners to find later, like a performance she was curating. A lipstick stain on her favorite coffee mug, an old picture of her and Rowan with "What if?" written on the back. An Instagram post captioned, "If I ever disappear, just know. I was trying to be free. Her plan wasn't just to vanish. It was to haunt." And so the stage was set. On August 16th, 2022, Kadija stepped into Shahaban's black Mercedes with a heart full of dreams. A stranger held the steering wheel. A killer sat beside her. Behind them, a man with brass knuckles and a knife. Ahead of them, a quiet road near the woods. Somewhere between the beginning and the end of that ride, Kadija lost her life. And Shahaban took hers. Before she was a murder victim, before she was mistaken for someone else, before she became a pawn in someone else's escape. Kadija B was a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. She was born in Algeria, in a quiet town where the sun shone hard on clay rooftops and kids played barefoot until sunset. But life there wasn't easy. Her parents divorced when she was very young. Her mother stayed behind. Her father took her to Germany, seeking safety, structure, and a future. Like many immigrants, Kadija lived between worlds. In one world, she was the obedient daughter, quiet in public, modest in dress, careful not to draw too much attention. In the other, she was vibrant, a lover of bold eyeliner, loud music, soft laughs. She dreamed in color. Dreamed of makeup brands, modeling gigs, camera flashes, and ad campaigns with her face on them, not because she wanted to be rich, but because she wanted to be seen. A spark in the shadows, Kadija never had much. She shared a flat in Baden-Württemberg with other girls, worked long shifts at a small cafe, and sometimes barely made rent. But she never stopped trying. She saved up for ring lights, bought used beauty palettes, watched YouTube tutorials until 2 a.m., practicing every contour trick until it became muscle memory. She started posting her own videos. Nothing fancy, just phone camera clips in her shared bedroom, showing how to recreate soft glam looks or Algerian bride-style eyeliner. Her followers were few, but loyal. One girl commented, "You're so talented. You should be famous." Kadija replied, "Maybe one day." Her videos weren't viral, but they were real, and that was enough. She didn't chase trends. She chased expression. Her favorite quote was taped to her wall. "You don't need a crown to be a queen, just a mirror." She looked in that mirror often, and slowly she was beginning to believe in herself. The dream opportunity. So when the message came, when a supposed salon owner messaged her saying she'd been scouted for a modeling gig, it wasn't just an opportunity. It was a sign. Kadija had been manifesting this moment, praying for it, journaling about it. She told her roommate, "Maybe God is answering me." The account seemed real. The photos were professional. The tone was respectful, supportive, full of enthusiasm. The sender even said her face radiated confidence and innocence. Kadija blushed when she read it. She showed the message to her coworkers. "Finally, you deserve this. Just be careful, okay?" She was cautious, yes. She even messaged the artist she was told she'd be working with, Lon, and when he denied the project, alarm bells rang. But by then, the hook was set. The sender shifted stories. Said it wasn't about music, but beauty, a soft launch of a new line. Still in Munich, still glamorous, still promising. Kadija wanted to believe. Because when your whole life is climbing uphill, when you've been waiting for a door to open for years, even a fake one looks like a way out. The last day, on the morning of August 16th, 2022, Kadija got ready like it was the most important day of her life. She wore her favorite pink shirt, applied a soft, smoky eye, packed her best brush set in a small zip pouch, took a selfie with her makeup chair in the background, and posted it to her story with a sparkle emoji. She told her roommate she'd be back late, but I'll tell you everything. She even texted her sister, "Pray for me today. This could be something big." There was no fear in her heart, just nerves. Excitement. She got into a sleek black Mercedes, not knowing that the woman in the driver's seat wasn't a mentor, or a manager, or a beauty professional. She was a killer. After the violence, when police first discovered the body in the car, they believed it was Shahaban. The resemblance was that convincing. It wasn't until the autopsy, days later, that something didn't add up. Dental records, forensics, a missing persons report from Baden-Württemberg, and finally, DNA. Kadija's friends began to worry when she didn't return home that night, but they assumed she had gotten a last-minute hotel or had been swept into some whirlwind modeling weekend. The truth didn't come until days later. Police officers showed up at the flat. A social worker stood outside the cafe where she worked, asking her boss to step aside. The headline that came next was horrific. Kadija B., mistaken identity victim and shocking fake death murder plot. Her friends collapsed in disbelief. Her sister screamed when she saw the photos. Her father flew into rage. How could this happen? Who let this happen? Why her? The entire internet focused on the murderer. But Kadija's name deserved center stage. Who she really was, Kadija was not a statistic. Not a cautionary tale. Not an unlucky shadow. She was vibrant, soft-hearted, a friend who'd message you at 2 a.m. just to say, "You're beautiful." A sister who dreamed of one day opening a makeup store with her sibling. A girl who sang while blending foundation. Who believed a little color could heal a lot of darkness. She loved vanilla ice lattes, 90s R&B music. Glass jars filled with glitter. Lip gloss that shimmered under sun. Seeing other girls win, she was one of the good ones. The kind you meet once and never forget. And now? Now, her legacy is in the hands of those who speak her name, not as a victim, but as a reminder that dreams should never be punished, that trusting hearts shouldn't become targets, that beauty in all its forms deserves to live. Justice begins. At her funeral, dozens of young women showed up. Most had never met her. Some had only known her through a screen. They brought candles, wrote poems, reposted her last videos with captions like, "This world failed you, but we won't forget you. Your sparkle lives on. You were everything you hoped to become." They started a small fund in her name to support young immigrant girls in creative fields. One line from her journal was framed at the center of the memorial. "I want the world to see me, not as perfect, just as me." And they did. At last, the world saw her, not because of who took her life, but because of how she lived it. It was a warm summer evening on August 16th, 2022. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in soft orange and indigo hues. In Baden-Württemberg, Kadija's roommate was washing dishes, humming softly, thinking her friend was off chasing a dream. But 160 kilometers away, a nightmare was unfolding. The final ride. The black Mercedes glided down the Autobahn, smooth and silent. Inside, the mood was strangely light. Shahaban was chatty, smiling, even cracking jokes about the beauty industry being brutal. Kadija smiled politely. She didn't know this woman well, but she seemed confident, successful, reassuring. They stopped at a gas station for drinks. Shahaban paid. She even offered Kadija a protein bar, saying she didn't want her model to faint from hunger before the big day. Kadija thanked her, sipping on a bottle of juice. She sent a text to her sister. "All going well. She's really cool, TBH." That would be the last message she ever sent. They drove deeper into the outskirts of Ingolstadt, taking smaller roads, surrounded by tall trees and fading daylight. Then, slowly, Shahaban veered off onto a quiet, nearly deserted lane near the woods. Kadija looked up. "Is this the salon?" she asked. Shahaban gave a quick smile. "Just taking a shortcut." "It's through here." Into the shadows. The trees stood tall like silent witnesses as the Mercedes crept forward. The road turned to gravel, then to packed earth. Shahaban slowed the car, then stopped. She squinted out the window as if searching for a landmark. "Wait here, I think we missed the turn." She opened the door and stepped outside. Kadija hesitated, then followed. "Want me to help?" No, I've got it. Just need to check the street name." But there were no street signs. Only shadows, and behind them, someone was watching. Shakir. He had been following them in another vehicle. Quiet, obedient, exactly where Shahaban told him to be. And now it was time. The attack? Shakir emerged from behind the trees, fast and silent. Before Kadija could react, he struck her in the back of the head with a brass knuckle. She stumbled forward, dazed, falling to her knees. She turned, eyes wide, confused. The shock hadn't registered yet. What? She didn't get to finish the sentence. Shakir lunged. The knife plunged into her chest, then again, and again. She screamed once, sharp, high-pitched, and short-lived. He stabbed her over 50 times. Chest, neck, face, back. Each wound deliberate, furious, intended not just to kill, but to erase. Kadija's features were obliterated. Her body fell limp into the dirt, twitching slightly before going still. Her blood soaked into the forest floor. Shahaban stood nearby, frozen but not panicked. This was the plan. This was the price of disappearing. The switch. Once the killing was done, Shahaban and Shakir worked quickly. They dragged Khadija's body to the back seat of the Mercedes, upright, seatbelt buckled, face turned away. Her blood smeared the interior. Her purse was placed beside her. Her lipstick tube, her phone, her bag, all left exactly where Shahaban had placed them. Shahaban removed her own earrings and placed them in Khadija's ears. She smeared some of her makeup onto Khadija's destroyed face. It didn't help the wounds, but it created just enough misdirection. From a distance and poor lighting and shock, even a mother could be fooled. Then Shahaban did something even more twisted. She took Khadija's purse and her phone. She wanted it, not for the crime, not for evidence, but for the after. Because in her mind, the life she had just stolen, it was hers now. The placement. They drove to a residential street near Rowan's neighborhood, not directly in front of his home, but close enough, deliberate. If someone found the car, it would tie the scene to Rowan. Shahaban parked under a dim streetlight, locked the doors, checked the body one final time. Kadija, or what was left of her, slumped peacefully, grotesquely in the back seat. From afar, it looked like a woman napping after a long drive. From up close, it was a slaughterhouse. And then they walked away. The discovery... It wasn't until 11 p.m. that Shahaban's parents became worried. She hadn't returned. She wasn't answering calls. They were told she had gone to meet her ex-husband. So they did what any parent would do. They got in the car and went looking. And then they saw it. The Mercedes, parked on a quiet street, windows tinted, unmoving. They pulled over, approached, knocked on the glass. No answer. The shape in the back seat was still, hair dark, clothes familiar. Her makeup bag was on the passenger seat. They panicked, fumbled with their keys, shouted. Then they saw the blood, and the face, or what was left of it. They screamed. Neighbors came outside. Lights turned on. Someone called emergency services. The police arrived minutes later. The mistake that made the plan work. From the beginning, everyone believed the body was Shahaban's. It made sense. The car was hers. The clothes were hers. The bruises, the eyeliner, the location, everything pointed to a tragic end to a troubled life. The media picked it up immediately. Young woman brutally murdered in her own car outside ex-husband's home. The police started their timeline. The parents began to mourn. And Rowan? He panicked. He knew he didn't do it. But when he heard the news that Shahaban was dead, murdered in cold blood, and found near his home, he ran. To the media, it looked like guilt. To Shahaban, it was perfect. The switch had worked. But then, the mistake, she couldn't help herself. Just days after the murder, security footage caught a woman entering a pizza shop in a nearby town. She looked familiar. Too familiar. She was wearing Kadija's clothes, carrying Kadija's purse, using her phone. The shop owner had seen the news. He recognized the face. He called the police. They arrested both Shahaban and Shakir at the scene. And just like that, the illusion shattered. Curtain falls, the girl in the car wasn't who they thought. And the girl they thought was dead had orchestrated the entire thing. A real-life horror film, written, directed, and starring Shahaban. The town of Ingolstadt woke up in mourning. A 23-year-old woman was found brutally murdered in the back of a Mercedes, her body mutilated beyond recognition. The story spread like wildfire across Germany. Social media erupted with condolences, speculation, and outrage. News anchors whispered the word femicide. Twitter trended with hashtag justice for SHEABN, except it wasn't Shahaban. And it wouldn't take long before the truth began to bleed through the seams of the lie. Step 1, the autopsy. Kadija's body had been stabbed more than 50 times, a frenzy of rage and overkill. But the wounds, while horrific, had a strange focus. They were concentrated around the face. It was intentional, an attempt to erase identity. The face was the most damaged, barely recognizable, but everything else still intact. And that's what led the medical examiner to question things. Her dental records didn't match those on file for Shahaban. Even more disturbing, there was no evidence of prior injuries or surgical marks that Shahaban's files mentioned, like a minor foot fracture from years earlier. The autopsy also revealed a different blood type than listed in Shahaban's health records. That was the first red flag. Step 2, DNA doesn't lie. To be sure, investigators ordered a DNA test. They compared the victim's blood to DNA samples previously taken from Shahaban during a minor arrest. And the result came back clear. The body was not Shahaban, which meant the wrong girl had died. And the real Shahaban, the one everyone thought was murdered, was missing. Or worse, she wasn't missing at all. Step 3. Following the clues, investigators began digging. They looked at phone records, GPS data, social media activity. They found that Kadija's phone had continued to be used after her death. Instagram logins, GPS pings, a mobile payment at a pizza shop, even a Google Maps search for hostels near Augsburg. It didn't make sense, unless someone had stolen her phone and was pretending to be her. Then came the CCTV footage. August 19th, 2022, just 3 days after the murder. Security cameras captured a young woman walking into a small pizza restaurant, wearing Kadija's jacket, holding her purse, ordering food. She looked too familiar. The store owner had seen the crime scene photo on the news. When he saw the woman, something didn't sit right. So he called the police. Minutes later, Shahaban was arrested, sitting across from Shakir, casually eating pizza as if nothing had happened. The investigation unravels. When police opened the investigation, they were overwhelmed, not just by the violence, but by the sophistication of the plan. They discovered that Shahaban had used multiple fake accounts to lure women. They recovered messages between her and Shakir outlining the murder plot in chilling detail. One text read, "We have to make sure they can't recognize her face." Another, "You'll get your money after the pictures." They found the casting criteria list, handwritten, folded inside a makeup bag. It listed height, age, skin tone, all designed to find a match. And the motive? Simple. Disappear. Escape consequences. Frame Rowan. It was Shahaban's magnum opus. A performance so grotesque it almost worked. The shockwaves. The police released a statement to the public. The woman originally identified as the victim is, in fact, alive and in custody. The deceased has now been identified as Kadija B., 23 years old. The country gasped. Rowan, who had been hiding in fear, was contacted. When he was told his ex-wife was not only alive, but had tried to frame him for murder, he wept. "I knew she was dangerous," he said. "But this is beyond anything I ever imagined." He turned himself in not as a suspect, but as a witness. His testimony would later prove vital in understanding how long this manipulation had gone on. The families react. Kadija's loved ones were devastated. They had mourned quietly, thinking their sister, daughter, friend had died in some random act of mistaken identity. Now they knew. It wasn't random, it was planned. Kadija had been chosen, targeted, hunted. Her sister posted, "She wasn't in the wrong place. She wasn't at the wrong time. She was lured there, like an animal, and left like trash. Her friends organized memorial vigils. Influencers began sharing her story. Hashtag Justice for Kadija began trending. Some shared her makeup tutorials, the few she had managed to upload. Others posted her selfies, using her favorite filters, her own captions. No crown needed. Just a mirror. The case moves to trial. In early 2023, prosecutors formally charged Shahaban with murder, conspiracy to commit identity fraud, attempted framing of an innocent person, use of deception in planning a homicide, abuse of a corpse. Shakir was charged as an accomplice, with additional charges for use of a weapon and resisting arrest. The court deemed both suspects mentally fit to stand trial. But the trial wouldn't start until early 2024. Why? Because both Shahaban and Shakir refused to speak for months. And when they finally did, it wasn't remorse. It was performance. The final clue, she couldn't let go. When officers searched Shahaban's phone, they found dozens of selfies taken after the murder, wearing Kadija's clothes, posing in mirrors, even practicing facial expressions. It was as if she wasn't just stealing Kadija's identity, she was trying to become her. One selfie was captioned, "New beginnings." Another, "Tell me I'm not her." One final video, taken the night of her arrest, showed her twirling in front of a mirror, whispering, "She lived for beauty. I died for it." Except she hadn't died. Kadija had. And now the world knew. By the time the trial began in January 2024, the case had already become one of the most shocking criminal stories in recent German history. A young woman who faked her own death by murdering her lookalike, then framed her ex-husband. It was the kind of tale that belonged on a movie screen. But this wasn't fiction. This was the court of law. And for the family of Kadija B, it was the only chance they'd get to see justice, or, at the very least, acknowledgement of the pain inflicted upon them. The courtroom, it was packed on day one. Media outlets from all over Europe were present. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but reporters described the atmosphere as tense, grief-soaked, and at times eerily quiet. Shahaban entered the courtroom in a gray coat. Her makeup was subdued, no longer the contour queen of Instagram, but now a woman stripped of filters, followers, and fantasy. She walked with her head low, occasionally glancing at the crowd, her expression unreadable. Shakir, her accomplice, sat several feet away, chained at the wrist. He wore a blank expression, twitching slightly at times. Those who knew him described him as lost, easily influenced, and dangerous under pressure. But it was Rowan, the ex-husband, once the intended scapegoat, whose entrance stunned the courtroom. He hadn't been seen in public since the initial investigation. He walked in slowly, calm, measured. And then he sat just feet from the woman who nearly ruined his life. The charges, the prosecution laid it out clearly. Shahaban had premeditated the murder of Kadija. She had used deception to lure Kadija to her death. She had recruited Shakir, promising him drugs and money. She had attempted to frame her ex-husband by planting the body near his home. She had stolen Kadija's identity after her death, posing as her in public, using her belongings and attempting to vanish. When the prosecution finished, the silence was so thick you could hear someone in the back row stifling a sob. Shahaban speaks. It was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Would she confess? Would she break down? She walked slowly to the stand, her hands folded tightly in her lap. And then she spoke, but what came out was not remorse. In a soft, breathy voice, she painted herself as a victim. She said Rowan had manipulated her, destroyed her confidence, left her with no choice. She claimed her mental state was fragile, that the death wasn't meant to happen like that. She denied planning the murder, saying Shakir had gone too far. She even claimed, "I just wanted to disappear, not hurt anyone." Gasps filled the room. Kadija's sisters stood up, yelling through tears, "You didn't just hurt her, you killed her." The judge ordered her to sit, but the courtroom had already changed. Because in that moment, everyone knew this wasn't just a broken woman. This was a manipulator, a narcissist, a person who had killed to start over and still wanted to control the narrative. The evidence speaks louder, then came the evidence, and it crushed any defense she had left. Screenshots of her messages to Shokir, the murder weapon with his fingerprints, the handwritten list of lookalike requirements, surveillance footage of her walking in Kadija's clothes, audio recordings of her rehearsing new accents and identities. But the most damning piece? A journal entry found under her mattress, scribbled 2 weeks before the murder. If they think I'm dead, they'll miss me more. If he cries, I win.
I'm not running.
I'm reborn. Kadija's family testifies. Kadija's sister took the stand and broke down before saying a word. Her voice cracked as she described her sister's dreams, how she practiced makeup in the dark, how she made TikToks between cafe shifts, how she smiled through poverty. She ended with one line. She just wanted to be seen. And now the whole world sees her, but for the wrong reason. The judge was visibly shaken. The verdict. After 2 weeks of proceedings, the court reached its decision. Shahaban was found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit identity theft, attempted framing of an innocent person, desecration of a corpse. She was sentenced to life in prison, with no possibility of parole for at least 22 years, the same age as the woman she killed. Shokir was sentenced to 25 years, with eligibility for parole after 15. The judge delivered a final statement. This was not a crime of passion, it was a performance. And it cost a real person their life. Aftermath. The sentence didn't bring Kadija back, but it brought clarity, closure, and perhaps, in small pieces, healing. Kadija's family launched a scholarship fund in her name, supporting immigrant girls pursuing creative arts. It was called the Mir Fund, a nod to Kadija's favorite quote. Her TikTok account, now memorialized, gained tens of thousands of followers. Not out of pity, but in tribute. Girls around the world recreated her makeup looks using the hashtag #glow for Kadija. Rowan returned to a quiet life, away from cameras, away from pain. He gave one interview, just one, where he said, "I never hated her, but I'll never understand her, and I'll never forgive her." As for Shahaban, her name became synonymous with something darker than murder. It became a symbol of narcissism at its most extreme. The idea that image is more important than truth, that control is worth any cost, even life itself, and in a strange, ironic way. She finally got what she wanted. The world knew her name. In the media frenzy that followed Shahaban's trial, one name was repeated over and over, but it wasn't the killer's. It was the girl she tried to erase, the one whose life had only just begun. Kadija B., more than a victim. To the world, Kadija was the lookalike victim, the innocent woman murdered in a grotesque identity swap, a pawn in a crime so twisted it defied logic. But to her family, friends, and community, she was never a pawn. She was a light. Kadija wasn't just beautiful, her best friend said at her memorial. She was the kind of person who made you feel beautiful just for existing. She didn't have fame, she didn't have wealth. She had kindness. And in a world obsessed with image, Kadija stood out because her soul matched her face. Bright, warm, genuine. Her death was cruel. But her life was poetry. A life in color. Kadija loved color. Not just in makeup, but in life. She painted her shared bedroom walls with sticky notes, affirmations, prayers, goals. Things like, "One day I'll work for L'Oreal. Make someone smile today. Be soft. Even if the world isn't. Glow up, girl." She kept an old, half-broken tripod near her window to get the best light. She practiced camera angles. Not for vanity, but for expression. She wasn't trying to be an influencer. She was trying to be heard. Her favorite tutorial? A soft brown eyeliner look called Eyes Like Trust. Trust is beautiful, she once said, smiling into the camera, but it's also dangerous. Be careful who you give it to. The irony is heartbreaking. The echoes she left behind. After the verdict, Kadija's TikTok account exploded, not because of drama, but because young women around the world, from Morocco to Malaysia, started commenting on her old videos. You inspire me. I wish we had met. You should still be here. This look saved me. A single video where she shows how to apply highlighter on your nose bridge has over 3 million views now. Why? Because it's not just about beauty anymore. It's about presence. Kadija's smile, her voice, her calm energy, it lives on in pixels. And for thousands of girls navigating identity, culture, ambition, and fear, she became a lighthouse. A sister speaks. At the foundation launch for the Mirror Fund, Kadija's older sister stood on stage holding her photo. Her hands trembled, but her voice strong. She was not lost. She was not weak. She did not walk into a trap blindly. She was kind, she trusted, and she shouldn't have paid for that with her life. She paused, took a breath, then said, "But she's not just a name on a headline. She's a revolution. Every time you speak kindly, you're honoring her. Every time you choose softness, you're fighting for her. Every time you light a candle in a dark world, you're continuing her story. Why it matters. True crime stories often end at the courtroom door. A verdict is delivered, a sentence handed down. The public moves on, but not this time. Because this case wasn't just about murder. It was about identity, trust, the dangers of a world where appearance trumps humanity. Shahaban was obsessed with being seen. Kadija just wanted to be real. In a way, the two women were opposites. One manipulated beauty. The other embraced it. One used attention as a weapon. The other offered it as a gift. And in the end, that difference cost Kadija her life. But it also cemented her legacy. Because no matter how horrific her death was, her life refuses to be forgotten. The global response. In the months after the trial, thousands of women created art, music, and videos in Kadija's honor. A beauty blogger in Algeria created a lipstick shade named Kadija's Light. A group of German students produced a short film based on her story. A mural was painted in Berlin with her portrait and the words, "She never got the crown, but now the world sees her." Final words, what happened to Kadija was evil. It was calculated, brutal, senseless. But what's more important is what happened after. Her name rose, her light spread. Her voice echoed in places she never got to visit. And that's the truth no killer can erase. You can steal someone's life, but you can't steal their soul. And Kadija, she lives. In the brushstrokes of every makeup artist who dares to dream. In the hearts of every girl learning to love her reflection. In the truth tellers, the light bringers, the kind ones. She lives in every woman who now asks one more question before trusting a stranger. And every girl who looks in the mirror and whispers, "You're enough." Just like Kadija said,